Hey everybody, I just wanted to really quickly informally show you how I deployed Openclaw on a Debian VPS with 2 gigs of RAM, and I'm using OpenAI's codex subscription model for LLM. I'm just going to keep this really informal and fast because it seems to me that Openclaw is a little bit unstable right now. They have a really fast deployment cycle, so in a few days this might not be viable anymore. Today is February 21st, and I'm going to be using a slightly older version of Openclaw because it seems to be a little bit more stable. So I assume some of this is going to change over time, but I figured I'd just show you the steps that I did. I'm sort of planning for this to be more for someone who has a basic understanding of Linux, how to use Linux on a command line. So if you're not very familiar with Linux, this probably isn't the guide for you, but I'm going to show you all the basic steps for getting the system set up on a VPS and that sort of thing. And then one more thing, why I'm using a VPS rather than my personal computer is for security. I don't have right now a machine in my house that I can use for this right now, so I'm just using a VPS on a server. At some point I do plan on getting a system to run at home, but this is working for now. It's just a really minimal 2 gigabyte RAM machine. It's going to be running Debian. The CPU doesn't matter super a lot. I think this might just be like a single core CPU. So it's not going to be the most performant thing ever, but it's going to function for what's needed. I'm using a RAM node as my VPS host. I think you can kind of use anything and it probably won't matter too much. But I'm going to just rebuild this from scratch with you guys. So I can do this here with the UI on RamNode's website. And we're going to use Debian 13, I think that's Trixie. And RamNode's kind of convenient in that you can just give it your SSH public key and pass it to the root user to authenticate right away, so you don't have to use their website's terminal, but if you wanted to do that, you could. And by the way, if you don't have an SSH key, maybe this isn't the guide for you, but you would run SSH keygen. You probably have already done that, and then it'll make in your home directory a folder called .ssh, and in that folder you should have a public key file that looks like this. So you're going to want to get those contents and put it in your keyboard or in your clipboard. I can do that on my system like this, and then go through the user interface on the website and paste it in. And you can pass it to the machine as it sets it up. I've written a script for a lot of the basic stuff to get the system up and running to begin with. So I'm going to get that on the machine and running, and then we'll walk through it step by step. You could also just type this in line by line if you wanted. Another thing, on the VPS on the website, make sure that it is open to the public internet. You'll want to get the IP address and maybe save that somewhere that you can access later. Everybody, it's Zach. After the video, I just wanted to hop in here and say, hey, I don't care if you take my IP address. I've already undeployed the server, so have fun with it. It's just a number. Somebody else is using it maybe. So don't harass them. I don't know. I made a script for connecting to the machine over SSH. So yeah, how we're going to do that to begin with is we're going to say, maybe I'll make my terminal a little bit bigger for you guys. How I'm going to do that is SSH root at that IP address. Oh, and I was already accessing this machine before I cleared it out, so you're going to edit SSH known hosts. If you get this error, you'll go to the bottom where you were connecting to that machine, delete all those records. So that's the IP address of my VPS host. So if you already had a VPS and you reset it, you'd have to do something like this. But if you're just setting up the first time, you won't have to do that. Okay, so like I said, we're going to run SSH root at that IP address. It'll connect to it. It's going to ask you to save the fingerprint or something like that. Say yes. So now we're connected to that machine as the root user, and now I'm going to copy that script over. So I have a script in this folder And you can copy files using SFTP. You can use whatever rsync if you want. And I'm just going to put that script, which, what did I call it? I called it deploy from scratch Debian. Okay, so the file is on the machine. Make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so I'm in /root on the machine. I just SFTP'd to put that script on there, and I'm going to run it. I have to probably make it executable and spell my stuff correctly. chmod. Make it executable, and then I can run it. And while it does that, I'm going to go through what the script actually does. So line by line here, what we're going to do is we're going to update the system, so update the repositories, then actually do the upgrade. So everything is up to date with Debian. And then we're going to install a few modules or packages. So sudo vim git tmux, those are probably the most important ones. I'm also installing Firefox. That'll help in the OAuth for OpenAI, but you can use a different browser if you want. If you're just using Anthropic's API key or a different LLM source, you might not need that. OAuth is for X11 forwarding. I think that's helpful to have. I'm using Alacrity as a terminal, so if I install it on the machine, it makes it stop complaining about some stuff. htop is like the task manager if you want to use that. LSOF to check whether ports are open. I think those are a good starting set of things to install. And then I'm not sure if this part's actually necessary, but I'm going to just make some swap space on the machine because it only comes with 2 gigabytes of RAM. So if we get over the 2 gigabytes, this will start saving to disk some memory to help it out so it doesn't lock up as much. I'm not sure if the deploy image for Debian already includes swap space, but I just included those commands as a safe measure here. Okay, so after it does that, I'm going to declare a variable in bash with the username for the user I want, because we don't want to do everything on root. We want to make a user with the appropriate permissions and install Openclaw in user space. Okay, so yeah, that's the username. I'm going to declare this variable as well to hold the SSH key comment when you do SSH keygen. It's not super important. I'm going to just print to terminal that we're creating the user. And then, yeah, so if the user already exists, nothing's going to happen. But because we're running this the first time, we're going to create a new user. We're going to give it a shell of bash. And we're going to, I think that makes a home directory for the user with the username we define in that variable above. And then we're going to set a password for the user. You're going to have to actually type this in. And then we're going to modify the user with 2 groups. We're going to give it sudo permission, and we're going to put it in the wheel group as well. And then we're going to basically act as that user with sudo, tell it to create a SSH key, and then we're going to set the editor and sudo editor values in the bash run commands file for that user. I'm using Vim. You can use whatever editor you want. Once that stuff's done, one more thing the script's going to do is going to open the sudoers file in our sudo editor program, and we're going to just paste this command, this line in that file to make sure our user has sudo access, and then I'm going to say no password all, so we don't have to type in our password all the time, really frequently. So that's all the script does. Pretty straightforward. So we're at the point in that file where we said password. So we've already done all the package installs, upgrades, creating the swap space, defining our variables, creating the user. Now we're setting the password for the user. I'm using the command line utility pass to save passwords. You can use whatever tool you want to save passwords, but I'm just going to copy that to my clipboard and then paste it in. It's going to ask for it again. I'm going to paste it one more time. And then it's going to ask where we want to save our SSH key. we're just going to do the defaults here, no passphrase. So the SSH key has been generated for the user on our VPS. Now we're going to copy this, and it's going to open our sudoers file. We're going to go to the bottom, put that somewhere sensible in the file, and then just for extra good measure, I'm actually going to make another record just for the user. So basically, we're not going to have to type in the password for the user really frequently. Okay, so that's set. So I'm going to do one more thing before we move on. I'm just going to reboot the machine just to make it a little bit easier on us. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy our IP address one more time. Once that machine reboots, we should be able to SSH directly into that user. So let's try that. So I don't want to have to type in my password every time I SSH into the machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my home computer's home directory, and then from the home directory, we're going to go into that SSH folder. In that folder, we have our public key, so I want to post that on the VPS machine. So I'm going to say sftp user at our IP address. Oops. User at our IP address. We're going to sftp. We're going to paste our password. We're going to put our public key on the machine. So now when I go on the machine and I ls in the home directory for that user, we have put that file on there. So now what we can do is we can cat the contents of that file into the VPS user's SSH folder, authorized keys. Hopefully I spelled this right. So if we go into the SSH folder on the VPS, we've created this file, and in there is our public key. So now if I exit SSH and then I try to reconnect, it's not going to ask for my password anymore to access it from our home machine. So now what I want to do is I want to make a couple changes to the SSH daemon on that machine. So I'm going to say sudo su to become the root user, and I'm going to edit the file etc/ssh/sshd config. We're going to edit that file, and we're going to make a couple changes. So password authentication, let's change that to no. So now we can only connect to the machine with our SSH key, or we could go on the browser and use the terminal in the browser from ramnode. Okay, so we're going to change that, and we're also going to enable X11 forwarding and set those two things, uncomment those two following lines. So now if we say systemctl restart SSHD, it's going to restart the SSH daemon, and we can quit our SSH connection and try to reconnect, and now all those changes are there. So now we can forward X11 apps over SSH, but to do that, we actually need to use the -x flag, capital X. And so now if we wanted to run something with X11 forwarding, we could do that now. So I'm going to try to open Firefox on the VPS by running Firefox command. And it's really slow, but it works. So if you think there's a better way to use the browser on a headless machine than what I just did, go ahead and do that. But anyway, we can run GUI apps over SSH now. Okay, so next thing. I want to get a couple files that's my home computer's configuration on this machine, just to make it a little bit easier. I've curated a version of my bash RC that's going to go on the machine. And you probably don't have to do anything like this. It's just something I like to do. So I'm going to say sftp user at that machine. And I'm going to put my curated bash RC on there. And I'm going to put some bash aliases on there just to help me out. And like I said, you don't have to do this. But if you do copy your bash RC onto the machine, it's really important that you do not give it incorrect permissions. So make sure the user has read and write permissions to those files. Otherwise, you're going to have problems with the upcoming steps. So what I'm going to do is, rather than copy the files just to be a little bit safer, I'm going to just pipe the contents of those files into a new file, just to be a little bit safe. And like I said, you don't have to follow all of the stuff I'm doing totally perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to SSH back into that machine. My bash RC settings are sourced, so now my prompt is updated, and some other stuff too that's not super important. So, okay, so you'll note when I did the apt install earlier, I did not install npm or Node.js. That was not installed with apt. And the reason for that is Debian's version of Node.js is older than what we need. Right now, right now, if you go to Openclaw, how to install, you go to Openclaw's wiki and ask it how to install. It says it wants Node 22 plus. I was using Node 24 and it was giving me problems, so I'm going to use Node 22. If you go to Node's website, nodejs.org/English/download, you go here, it tells you how to install it on Linux using NVM. I want version 22. So basically we're going to run those commands, and we're going to do that really silly thing of downloading something from the internet and immediately executing it with bash. So we're going to download their install script. We're going to source their script, and then we're going to install Node 22. And now if we run their two commands here, it'll show that Node is installed, version 22, npm version 10.9.4. So when you do this, double check Openclaw's wiki, see what version of Node.js you want, and you can tinker with this and do whatever works for you. They recommend downloading an install script and installing it that way. I've tried it. I've kind of had problems. The current version of Openclaw appears to be a little bit buggy right now. If you go to their GitHub for the Openclaw project, which we're about to clone, actually, let's do that. Let's git clone their repo. I'm going to manually build rather than running their install script, and the reason for that is, okay, I guess they came out with a release today, but I was using the February 19th version and having some problems. So I'm going to go back and use the February 17th release. So I'm going to copy that commit hash over here. And I might not upload this to YouTube for a couple days, so maybe try the newer version and see if it works. But the February 19th version was giving me some issues with getting the gateway for Openclaw running. So I'm going to just say git reset at that hash. So I clone the repo, I need to go into the repo, and then I need to reset to that hash. If we say git log, you can see the hash we're on right now is from February 18th. Okay, so yeah, it's the February 17th version, but it was committed on February 18th. I wonder if that's like a time zone thing, 2 a.m., probably time zone. Okay, so install instructions from Openclaw. We're not going to do their installer script. We're going to go from source. We basically cloned the repo, went to the hash we want, we changed directory into the folder, and now it wants us to use pnpm. So what I'm going to do is install pnpm using the npm we installed earlier. So I'm going to say npm -g for global install pnpm. Okay, so it added the package pnpm. Okay, so pnpm's working. So now we can run the commands that Openclaw says we should run to install it. pnpm install. Okay, we waited patiently for the pnpm install command. Now we're going to build the UI like they say. So we built the UI, now we're going to build the rest of the project, I guess. Okay, so we just built the project. Now we're going to run this command to basically make Openclaw available globally from the command line. We're going to add it to the path or something like that. So we run that command. Okay, so now it's giving me an error. No global bin directory for pnpm. So let's run this pnpm setup command. It recommends we do. Run that command. Okay, so it appended lines to our bashrc file. Those configuration changes were added to it. Now start using pnpm. We're going to source our bashrc since it changed it. Okay, so now we can try to run that pnpm link global command again. And this time, give us a warning. I'm going to not think about that right now. If we have problems later, we will figure it out. Okay, so now we can do the onboarding for Openclaw. But before we run that command, because I'm using OpenAI's codex LLM, I'm going to take a couple extra steps because it seems to me right now that Openclaw is kind of buggy in getting that model to work. So this is what I found works for me. And you can do whatever works for you. But this is what worked for me right now. So if we navigate to OpenAI's website to install Codex, this is the documentation from OpenAI on how to install Codex. Okay, so we're going to install it on the command line. We're going to use npm to install it globally. Codex, as I understand, is OpenAI's tool to basically communicate with ChatGPT from your home machine as software rather than going through the browser. So we installed the package, and now we can run the Codex command to authenticate with Codex. So this is not authenticating with Openclaw yet. This is just the Codex application. And what it recommends we do, let's see, we're going to sign in with ChatGPT. So what it says is if this link doesn't open automatically, you can paste it in your browser. So this Firefox instance is running on our VPS. It's really slow because we're doing X11 forwarding, so we have to kind of wait patiently for it to do that. It says you can also, on a remote or headless machine, sign in with device code. I haven't done that yet. You can try that if you want. So we're going to wait patiently for the OAuth to work through the browser. Okay, this is taking forever to load. I'm going to try to open a new browser tab. There might be a better way to do this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Firefox in the background. And now I'm going to run Codex. And we're going to sign in with ChatGPT through the browser. And it's going to open in a new tab in Firefox that link. It's giving me some difficulties trying to copy paste from the terminal, so hopefully this works out, having it automatically open. Okay, so I'm going to sign in. We have to do our two-factor authentication. Okay, so sign in with ChatGPT, continue. Okay, so you may now close the browser. Press enter to continue. Do you trust the contents of this directory, the home directory? Sure. Okay, so now we can talk to ChatGPT on the command line through Codex. hello, can you hear me? Okay, so I'm going to Control C to get out of there. Okay, so the reason why we just did that is we need the authentication token from Codex to give to Openclaw, and right now it seems like the Openclaw authentication with OAuth on Codex is broken, at least in the February 17th version. Okay, so, alright, so now, if we were to run this command, we're going to cat the contents of this file. It will print the access token that we're going to need from Codex to give to Openclaw. I'm not going to show you that token because I don't want you to use it. Okay, so now back to onboarding Openclaw. We're going to run the onboard command. And we're going to do the same thing you've probably seen in other guides. Yes, it's risky, press Y. Onboarding will quick start. Okay, openai-codex OAuth plus API key. We want to use codex OAuth because that is what we basically get unlimited use of. If we use the API key, we'll have to pay per token. Okay, so now it's doing sort of the same thing Codex had us do, but for me on the Openclaw onboarding wizard, it seemed to not work or be broken. So I'm going to just put anything in this post the redirect URL thing because it doesn't seem to work. And we'll come back to fixing that. You could also use your Anthropic API token if you'd rather use that model. It seems to be a little bit more reliable, but then you have to pay for per token. And we wait patiently for it to give me a problem. Okay. So it's asking us what model we want to use. We're going to use regular 5.1 by default. Here you can set up a different chat channel if you want to do Telegram, WhatsApp, Discord. That's up to you. I feel like everyone has their own way they want to do it, so I'm going to just skip this for now, use the stuff that comes with Openclaw to begin with. We'll do skills, I guess. We'll just do a couple that I want. You can read through these and decide what of them you think you need. Video frame seems like a great idea, but we're not going to wait for that to install for right now. Okay, what else do I need? I think those are fine for now. So now it's going to ask us if we want to install Homebrew. That's something for macOS that helps them install stuff on the command line. I guess that's helpful for some skills, so we'll go ahead and do that. So it says run this command. I'm going to open in a different terminal the SSH, a new SSH window. Okay, so here on the bottom I have a separate window SSHing into that machine while we keep the other one open where we're still doing the Openclaw onboarding wizard. So I'm going to just copy paste the stuff it says to run. Okay, so it gives us some next steps. So it wants us to basically run this stuff. I think build essentials already installed by default. You can run that command again if you want. GCC should also already be installed. So we'll run the stuff it wants us to run. Okay, so Homebrew should be set up and ready to go now. Preferred node manager for skills installs. I'm going to use npm. Do what you want. Okay, I'm not going to give it any API keys right now. And then I like the command logger and session memory. You can pick which hooks you want. Okay. Gateway closed. Let's see, I want to read that again. Gateway closed, no close reason. Oh, we'll figure that out. Okay, it says onboarding complete. Use the dashboard link above to control Openclaw. So the potential issue you're going to have now is if you want to use the web user interface to talk to Openclaw, it's running on our VPS, but from our home browser, we can't access that without doing some kind of forwarding. Does it give the command? Somewhere, okay, so here's the command, okay. So I'm going to run this SSH command on my home machine. So I'm on my home machine, I'm going to run this SSH command it gives to basically tunnel the dashboard so I can access it from my home computer on my browser. Okay, so I think that's running in the background. I'm going to just get it out of here for now. And then it says, okay, now you can access in your browser. So when I access that right away, if I just type in the localhost link, it's not going to have the gateway token that we need. So I'm going to copy that gateway token. And then we have to go to, where is it at? Config? No, what is it? Overview. On the web UI gateway dashboard. We're going to paste that token in the gateway token area, and we're going to click connect. So now you can see up here, instead of having an error, it says health is okay. But we can't chat quite just yet because I set up the openai-codex, and the token was broken during the setup. So if you use a different token, you might be able to chat with Openclaw already. But we need to fix that. So here's how I'm going to fix that. I'm going to run, let's see, I'm going to run this command. Openclaw models auth paste dash token double dash provider openai dash codex. So now when we collected our codex token before, we're going to paste that here. So I'm going to go collect that quickly. So that command to get the auth token was this command. And it's going to print that to your terminal. You can copy everything between the quotes on the end and paste that in the Openclaw wizard. So we pasted that in. And it says it updated openclaw.json. openai-codex manual is the auth profile. Okay, so now if we go into the in openclaw.json, if you search for models, you can see that right now my primary model is Codex GPT 5.1. If you were to go into agents, main agent, so if you go into your home directory .openclaw agents main agent, in here you should now have a file called authprofiles.json. Now I'm gonna do one more thing. I don't know if this is actually necessary, but I'm gonna say Openclaw gateway restart just for good measure. It restarted the systemd service. And so, by the way, here's the systemd service. You can do your regular systemctl status. And it's a user service. You have to say /user. And you can see it's running. Or you can get the status from Openclaw itself. Gateway status. Here we go. Service might be out of date. I'm not going to think about that very much right now. Okay, so back to our browser. I'm going to refresh my browser page. And I'm going to say, hello, can you hear me? And it's going to think for a moment. Here we go. So it is saying, scroll all the way up, see the top of the message. It read all of its files. Okay, So it gave us a bunch of information about its personality. And then it says, yes, I can hear you loud and clear. And I can ask it, what model are you using for LLM? And it says, right now I'm running openai-codex GPT 5.1. All right, so you can see everything is working here. That's what I wanted to show you. It was kind of a lot of different steps, so hopefully if you're having some difficulty installing Openclaw on your machine, this helped you a little bit. Like I said, things are probably going to change in the coming days, but I figured I'd post this to help anyone out that might have some issues. Going back to previous versions of Openclaw might help you out as well. So anyway, good luck. That's just what I wanted to show you really informally quick. Have fun.